Okay, so we're about to dive into a story that, well, it pretty much breaks your brain. It's a scientific mystery that challenges everything we think we know about reality. This is the story of a very strange island where time itself gets completely rewritten.
So picture this, it's March 2019. We're on a tiny, uninhabited island that doesn't even have a proper name. It's just Island X on the maps. A team of scientists shows up with some of the most advanced instruments on the planet, all of them designed to do one thing: measure time. And their plan was simple. Stay for 3 weeks. Just 3 weeks. That's all they thought they'd need to study what they assumed was just a small, weird anomaly. But what they actually found was something else. By the time they left, every single piece of timekeeping equipment they had, their atomic clocks, their GPS-synced phones, you name it, was running in reverse. And I don't mean they were broken or just glitching out. They were actively, second by second, unwinding time. This wasn't just some weird equipment malfunction, it was like a fundamental law of physics had just been thrown out the window.
This quote from one of the scientists, Dr. Chen, just perfectly captures how impossible this whole thing was. See, she was keeping a journal, right? She'd write down all her observations, fill up the pages, and then wake up the next morning to find them totally blank. Why? Because from the island's point of view, she hadn't written any of it yet. Her yesterday was the island's tomorrow.
So how in the world did anyone even find a place like this? It wasn't some grand expedition looking for the secrets of the universe. No, it was a total accident. Let's take a look at how it all went down.
It all kicked off back in 2018. A cargo ship gets blown off course and just stumbles upon this island. The crew started reporting these bizarre glitches. Their watches were showing times from before they'd even boarded the ship, and a phone had photos that were time-stamped in the future. Most people just wrote it off as crazy talk, but one physicist, Dr. Marcus Webb, he took it seriously. And by March of 2019, he'd put together a team and was standing on that very island.
And here's the thing. When they first landed, everything seemed completely 100% normal. It was just a beautiful tropical island. All their clocks were synced up, every reading was stable. They set up their camp right there on the beach with absolutely no idea what was waiting for them just a little further inland.
But then they started to explore. They walked inland, and that's when everything changed. It was like they crossed some kind of invisible line into a place they would eventually call the zone, a pocket of reality where the rules we all live by just didn't apply.
So what is the zone? It's basically an area where the physical world is playing on rewind. You'd see a plant grow from a fruit back into a flower. A snapped tree branch would mend itself. But, and this is the truly weird part, for the scientists standing right there inside of it, their own minds, their consciousness, kept moving forward. They were like ghosts, moving normally through a world that was literally rewinding around them. Okay, this relationship between inside and outside the zone is a real head-scratcher, so let's break it down. When you're in the zone, you feel normal, but the world around you is going backwards. That means your past, everything you've already done, is now the world's future. And the world's past becomes your future. It's a complete flip-flop of cause and effect.
Dr. Webb came up with a pretty great analogy to try to make sense of it. He said, imagine you're on a train, and the train itself is moving backwards. To you, sitting in your seat, you feel perfectly still. But when you look out the window, you see the entire world rushing past you in the opposite direction. The zone was that train, and the scientists were just passengers on this impossible trip back through time.
You know, you can talk about the physics of this all day, but actually living inside a temporal paradox like that, it started to take a serious psychological toll. The human brain just isn't wired to see the effect happen before the cause, and their own experiments started proving just how damaging that could be.
The results they got were, well, they were deeply disturbing. Food they'd brought with them would start to unspoil, becoming fresh again, before just vanishing, because, it hadn't been grown yet. They'd find notes they hadn't written warning them about things that had, from the writer's point of view, already happened. But the most chilling example? Dr. Chen wrote in her journal that Dr. Webb was going to break his arm. And then he did. She realized she wasn't predicting the future. She was remembering it.
And this quote from Dr. Webb just hits the nail on the head. It's the central paradox that started to break their minds. As he asked, how can you possibly have free will if your future self can just send you messages? I mean, think about it. If you act on a warning, you change the future, which means the warning would never have been sent in the first place. They were trapped inside a logical impossibility. So this wasn't just some philosophical question for them. It became a terrifying reality for one member of the team, the biologist, Dr. James Porter. Because it's one thing to watch the world rewind, but it's something else entirely when your own mind starts to do it too.
Dr. Porter really started to lose his grip. He kept telling everyone he could remember getting on the boat and going home, even though he was clearly still standing right there on the island. Believing he could somehow rewind his own life, he made a tragic choice. He just started walking deeper into the zone, towards its center, and was never seen again.
The search for him was absolutely chilling. They found his footprints leading away from camp, but the footprints were appearing in reverse. A fresh print would just materialize in the sand out of thin air, then another, like they were watching an invisible man walk backwards. They weren't following his past, they were watching his future unfold, step by step.
After Dr. Porter vanished, Dr. Webb made the call. They had to get out of there. But as they crossed back over the boundary, out of the zone, the final, unbelievable twist was revealed. The entire 3 weeks they had spent inside were just gone, wiped from their memories. By moving backward through time, they had effectively left the zone before they ever went in. Their experiences were just erased. All that was left was the data, the photos, and those empty journals.
In the years since, dozens of other scientific teams have gone to Island X, and they all confirmed the same exact thing. But nobody, and I mean nobody, can definitively explain what is going on there, which has led to a whole bunch of competing theories, from the scientific to the truly wild.
You've got your mainstream theories, of course. Some scientists think it might be a stable wormhole, or maybe a weird pocket of the universe that just never synced up with the rest of space-time after the Big Bang. Others point to something called a closed time-like curve, which is a theoretical loop where the future can actually influence the past. But honestly, none of those really explain why human consciousness seems to be immune to it all.
And that brings us to Dr. Chen's theory. And this one is really out there. She basically asked, what if the island isn't the anomaly? What if we are? What if the entire universe is actually moving backward in time, and the zone is the one and only place where time is flowing the right way, forwards? It just completely flips our whole understanding of reality upside down.
And that's the thought I really want to leave you with. On that island, the sun sets before it rises, and wounds heal before they even happen. To us, that seems completely backward. But what if that's actually the natural order of things? What if our whole existence, this forward march of cause and effect that we call life, what if that's the real illusion? Maybe we're all on a train moving in the wrong direction, and we just have no idea.